Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the Zerg player voted most likely to cause my mental breakdown. In the red, the underling. It's SHIN. Face it off against his counterpart, the Terran in the blue, the People's Terran. We have Cure. In a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown between two players who truly embody the phrase, quantity has a quality all its own. And speaking of, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe and help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Yes, the quantity. 1,592 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than these early Zerglings and drones who will never know peace unless they're in pieces. Reaper poking and prodding, but the Queen pops out and starts slapping away. The Reaper, appropriately chastised, will be driven back, and the Queen will be able to lay down a creep tumor uncontested. And two command centers already on the way behind. Cure with no intention of early aggression, but instead, attrition is usually the name of the game. And also StarCraft 2, but don't be pedantic. Reaper gonna pop into the main, confirm the third base on the other side. There was the off chance, incredibly small, but still there, that SHIN just decides to pull the trigger on some sort of crazy all-in. Another Reaper, another Queen intercepts the Reaper. And, well, a little bit of push-up action as the factory drops down onto the reactor. Tech lab on the way. Looks like Hellion Banshee on the agenda. A staple of Terran versus Zerg for 15 years straight. The Destiny Cloud Fist build allows you technically to have access to the entire tech tree. That you'd have to pull out your Prima strategy guide to see the whole thing. Reaper heading home to join up with the first Hellions. And the third base in a bit of an awkward spot. Usually as a Zerg, you want to expand to the triangle base. It's a little bit stylistic. It depends on how you like to play. But there's a reason SHIN was blocking that base and not the other. This one is very simply closer to where Cure likely wants to expand. A little bit easier to put together a tank push, show up with a couple Hellions, unannounced, uninvited. But apparently going a little bit too far, and the Zergling sprinting out with a vengeance will chase down a Hellion and a Reaper. And the final one, the survivor, not for long. Ripped apart. SHIN overbuild Zerglings just a little bit, I think, with that exact intent. A Cure getting just a bit greedy with his units. And now, well, Cloak Banshee's on the way, but the third command center is already landing. That is 4.5 minutes in. Has an orbital completed. Yes, it's going to be Cloak Banshee, but there's already barracks 2 and 3 on the way. Cure bopped back into his corner by those early Zerglings. And Cure is a macro player. All right, much more macro-rony than there is cheese. Almost, the reason he is the People's Terran is because both his builds and his mistakes, as well as his decision-making, are very much what you might expect from a relatively competent and maybe less accomplished player. He has some of the most aggressively standard builds, even though not very aggressive. We're not talking Turtle Terran with 35 ghosts, but maybe eventually we'll get there. Just Marines and tanks and upgrades. And it's not about how many men you lose, it's about how many you have to replace them. Which leads to some interesting scenarios where a dozen Marines will die to a couple Banes, and then 20 more will somehow pop up to replace them. Even compared to Clem, I think Cure has arguably superior macro, and he has to. Otherwise, he wouldn't maintain this level of play. SHIN, also one of those players who maybe try building 2 Vipers instead of 400 more Zerglings, but that wouldn't be nearly as fun, or pad your APM nearly as much. I've seen SHIN with over 700 APM without going mutas, which is like an achievement in and of itself. Who are you trying to impress? Well, pretty much everyone who is looking for a Zerg that isn't Darker Cyril, which slim pickings nowadays. But 1-1 on the way for both sides, but SHIN will actually have about a minute of an advantage. Opting to go for the upgrades well before getting the lair, which means no Overseers early, but the Queens, oh, Banshees have to recloak. One of them didn't have enough energy to do so. But the creep spread already off to a strong start. That's what happens when you don't even bother with pushing out with the Hellions, especially after a couple get picked off. But SHIN taking down the rock. A diligent archaeologist. I feel like I've never seen anyone take down these rocks. I know I have, but it feels like one of those things that... It's like the Berenstain Bears of rocks. Winter, did you mean the Berenstein Bears? Did I? Well, Cure is back on the field and somehow actually has more supply, but Brenda, no! That was just Karen. Don't worry about it. Sorry. One queen picked off as the double medevac drop is dramatically revealed. The queens will replace the creep immediately. Already a hive on the way. It's an Octo-Rax timing out of Cure, but he built 67 SCVs, so it's like a... Usually you stop at exactly 62 for the most hard-hitting, sharpest timing. But Cure, much more well-rounded. You're like, well, that's probably not a good thing for a sword-like timing. No, Cure is much more like a steam engine. When he gets going, it doesn't matter how many Zerglings you throw in his way, he may just grind through them. And he's up 10 supply on SHIN. 12 Marines producing at a time, some Hellbats out in front, another Queen gun down, and the tank push will begin. Already halfway across the map, but full production of Marines, tanks, and medevacs. And SHIN, his hive is still a long way off, and any sort of hive tech, even including the ones that he sometimes neglects, still several minutes away. A huge surround. Right now, SHIN with 84 Zerglings and counting. But at the same time, Cure has 62 Marines and building 12 at a time. He's going to max out, I think, faster than the Zerg, who's been untouched economically, which is Cure in a very large but relatively concise nutshell. Speaking of large nutshells, it's time for an ultraless cavern. On the way for SHIN, the Zerglings and Banelings cutting off the reinforcement. SHIN expanding down to the bottom right corner. He may end up giving up that base to the north, though I don't know if he has to. And he starts Adrenal Glands immediately. SHIN is in it to win it. And maybe somebody finally sent him some of those YouTube shorts I've been making and totally not calling him out. But I digress. Melee attack level 2 and Carapace level 2 about to complete. If he was going to go, that would be the time. Those upgrades completing. He's got as much creep spread as he's ever going to get, at least for the near future. The upgrade's complete. Adrenal Glands is still a minute out. Such a massive upgrade. 40% attack speed for the Zerglings if they get within chewing distance. But now, Cure is just continuing this parade push across the map. Zerglings intercepting in the middle. There's only one siege tank. Siege obliterates Marines, rolling through another division of them. More Banelings coming in from either side. And the Marine army is Wait, what? He still has Marines. And more are coming across the map, trying to micro against him. Manages to slurp up a few survivors. And now 2 Ultralists are on the way. Cure is cleaned from the field. 167 Zerglings are taken down, but so are 81 Marines, 6 tanks. The Banshees also died in the midst of everything. A Zergling counterattack, and Cure still has a pretty healthy amount of supply. I love that depot wall off. Wait, no, oh, he finds a way in. Gets in the back door of the mineral line. Wow, Home Depot over here. And he gets out the same way he came in. Will Cure wall it off completely? Honestly, it's not a bad kind of tower defense style maze there. Wow, the creep spread has been rescinded dramatically. The queen count lowered to 5. A single infestor on the way. SHIN clearly played to win here. Pulling out the Cyril-like tactics. And the Ultralists are going to be a lot to contend with. But Marauders are in production. +1 mech weapons. Cure rebuilding SCVs as well. The 4th Command Center lands down the center. With the Marauders and 3-3 on the way. And he's actually turned that upgrade lead around. Has a bit of an advantage. Not as important at this stage of the game. Wow, who is this? SHIN with Adrenal Glands on time. Ultras in a timely fashion. Throwing an Infestor in. Vipers. The only thing he's missing is Burrow. For that Infestor. Has Ultra Speed queued up as well. Overseer's taken down. And Medevacs are keeping the Zerglings kind of anchored back at home. The creep spread is the real issue here for SHIN. Losing that much creep spread, he's got to push it back out, as without creep spread, even the Ultras are going to struggle to close the distance. And Cure knows his limits. He's not bothering with a Ghost Academy. Instead, he's building Liberators, Marauders, and tanks. More conventional options, but it's a strong convention, and there's a reason they're used so regularly. But 3 Ultras, speed about to complete. Both players closing in on maximum upgrades, at least for most of the composition. Vipers are gathering energy. And will they be ready in time? The creep completely gone from the path up to the north side. Though SHIN has that base in the bottom right corner. Cure is aware of it. Just looking for the best possible... Wow, the double siege parade push. Classic Cure. The depots will be torn down. The Zerglings trickling through. The Banelings looking for an opportunity as well. Just bashing through the base. And again, the base actually not taken out. Blinding Cloud on the siege tanks. But there's so many more behind it. And the Liberators as well. Oh, the Banelings are hunting down the Marines, evaporating yet again. Zerglings cutting off the reinforcements. Marauders torn to shreds, I say. Both by Ultras on the field and Zerglings back at home. And SHIN is trundling his way forward. The planetary fortress will be the backstop for now, but SHIN takes a 30 supply lead. A Spire is in production. The Ultras, I don't think he lost a single one. Not a single Ultra taken down in that fight, which means he can continue the momentum forward. How many Vipers? Still 2 intact. SHIN is on his A+ game right now. The only thing lacking, the creep spread. 3 Ghosts in production for Cure, but I don't know if that's going to be the antidote to this amount of Zerg and this level of economic... Well, mules exist, so... like affirmative action for Terran. But Cure, with 4 Ghosts on the way, there is a window here, but it's closing rather quickly for SHIN to make great use of the Ultras. They're still good against Ghosts, especially when Clem isn't involved. But unless Cure is willing to hand off the mouse and keyboard to his teammate Clem somehow, I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. Vipers gathering energy from another hatchery. 10 Corruptors on the way. Honestly, it's that solar style of brute force Zerg. You get the economic advantage. Use the Spire units to just sweep the skies. The Liberators and the Medevacs are what allow this army to keep going. Yeah, sure, it's the tanks and the boots on the ground that actually backstop everything. But without Liberators and Medevacs, they crumble easily to Lings, Ultras, and Banelings. It's the force multiplier mobility you get from those starport units that makes all the difference. Here, though, back up to 180 supply. His army supply is massive right now. 131 and counting. He's not really building any more SCVs either. How many orbital commands? Just 3. So he's at a very tenuous economy. A spine, more spines than a chiropractor's office over here to the north side. 6 spine crawlers on the way. As SHIN maybe getting a little ambitious with it, making sure he has that static defense, but another wave of Banelings is being morphed. Ultras working around to the north side, and Cure has to batten down the hatches and retreat into his shell. Here come the Corruptors. Vipers, full energy. Where are the Ghosts? Blinding Cloud forces the units into the Ultralist. Blinding Cloud across the tanks, and the Ultras will cleave through. A few snipes come out, but not nearly enough to stop the tide of Ultras from rolling in. 192 to 171. A base cleaved in twain. The planetary fortress invalidated, but here comes Cure, looking to strike back across the map. Viper, snipe, outrange, just barely. Another Ultra's popped. And there's not much creep spread up here. Where is that Infestor? It's in the main army. Burrow just completed. One Infestor could rule them all and win the game on its own and in the darkness. Or it could do that, and then the Medevacs will just heal. The timing is kind of important. Zerglings in the third. The push continues to the north for the third time. And okay, SHIN, great idea. gonna have to work on that execution. As throws out the fungals, the Marines and Marauders feel mildly uncomfortable, and then the Ghosts line up their shots and knock out half the Ultras. Loses the Vipers, but the Banelings rolling in the back. The Ghosts forced to retreat. Solid split out of Cure. The Ultras getting tied up on some of the individuals. And that, yeah, there you go. Third time's the charm, and the fungal lands. The Medivacs knocked out of the sky. The Liberators cleared away as well. And SHIN takes a commanding 60 supply lead. Ghost trying to line up snipes while Zerglings are clawing at their legs, unable to do so. And now, ooh, caustic spray, Marines. Oh, that's no, shit. So close. Yet, loses about half the Corruptors trying to aggressively spray and maybe even prey on that command center. He has the base to the south, which Cure in a half-map scenario should have claimed as his own, but he has far less than half the map right now. The Corruptors have done great work and pretty much done everything he needed to get into a game-winning position. All SHIN has to do is find that opportunity. Continue denying mining without... Oh, a changeling. Denying mining without, losing a critical mass of his valuable units. A Spire. A Greater Spire is on the way. I think that hatchery survived the assault from a couple minutes ago. Just barely, but he's been mining from it comfortably. The Infestor's out on the field. SHIN has lost 500 Zerglings. But, has a winning position. The only saving grace for Cure is his army supply is actually pretty close to equal. This is an army from SHIN that, if you come in piecemeal, they can gobble it up easily. The timing is important, and even if with that many Banelings, it's not a guarantee. Cure's still building the right units. Oh, the siege tank target fire on the swath of Banelings. Ghosts are able to snipe out one of the Ultras. That split, I can't believe it's not butter. A beautiful spread. And SHIN trying to take down another base. I think the Infestors are going to have to get more directly involved, as the Bio Ball is just a bit too tough to crack here. And Cure actually feeling quite confident. Or desperate. You know, two sides of a similar coin. Single, very optimistic Ultra be taken out. And SHIN has to be just the teensiest bit careful now of not overextending. As there's only 4 orbital commands. There's not this unlimited set of scans, especially after Cure drops an entire stable of mules. SHIN's at 200 supply. There's 6 Infestors scattered throughout the map. He has 82 drones, but Cure has 108 army supply. No neural parasite for the Infestors. Honestly, one of the best ways to break the army might be neural parasiting a ghost and EMPing the ghosts. But it doesn't look like that's the direction. You know what? I'm just proud of SHIN for using burrowed Infestors. The Ultras continue to throw their weight around. Can't really help it, but... Marauders. The Corruptors have survived throughout all of it, and honestly, the Corruptor choice seems to be the defining characteristic. Without the Corruptors, the Medivacs and the Liberators just keep finding opportunities. But the Liberators are pretty much extinct. There's 1 Liberator left on the map. 8 Medivacs still. He's building some Vikings as well. But Cure now has more army supply than SHIN can get in general. So he has to make a decision. Should he stay and build up? Or should he go and try to kill one of the bases? Because if he stays, it could be trouble. It gives Cure time to build up. But if he goes, it could be at least twice as much. He could lose an army and have to rebuild it and exhaust whatever sort of bank or lead he has in that regard. And even though he's mining a huge amount more gas, almost 800, nearly 4 bases more gas a minute, It's not... Zerglings on their own do not solve these problems. Wow. Wow. In just over 20 minutes, nearly 70,000 resources lost. The game is slowed down mostly because the Cure is forced into his turtle shell. Missile turrets on the way as Cure kind of leapfrogs his way towards the expand. Clearly this is not the game. Oh! So SHIN burrowed a Zergling at the base, but also had a burrowed Infestor when Cure scanned for it. So his Infestor just dies, which... Bit of an own goal there, but... Zergling counterattack is ready. So many Ultras and Banelings. Zerglings at the third, just trying to keep Cure busy. There's only 6 ghosts. One of them died to a siege tank there, I think. Yep. Cure killed a ghost. 6,000 minerals and 2,400 gas in the bank for SHIN. Nothing really for Cure, but wow, look at that bio ball. Parasitic bomb on the Medivacs. No quarantine. Gonna do a lot of damage. Allow the Corruptors to just wipe them out of the sky. But, wow, the Terran army with a lot of DPS, though. The Ultras are crumbling. The real win was the meta... Okay. Dunks his head in the ground. It cost him a scan, I guess. And here we go again. Deja vu. We've just been in this place before. Cure wins a fight, then throws his army away again. The medevac count completely reset, and yet again, the Corruptor Viper combo. 8 Broodlords on the way. The finishing move. Well, hopefully so, because if it doesn't work, that's a very expensive army. But Broodlord Infestor, no matter how many times we try to get away from you, you keep dragging us back in. The Zergling's getting pounded by the siege tank. Still Infestor. I like how he's got them scattered throughout the map. Like, sometimes they just show up. Better than F2ing them directly into siege tanks. Still, though, the map is SHIN's. So far, he's done quite a good job of relatively efficiently breaking the Terran. Yes, he's lost a lot of Zerglings. He's lost a few extra Ultras, but he's now mining at least half the map, whereas Cure is mining like one base at a time. What did I just hear? Did he just kill? Wow, he did it again. I think he had an Ultra at like 20 HP, and he killed it with his other Ultras. Survival of the fittest. Because we can't be wasting Queen energy on Transfuse. Neural Parasite the Medivacs, but the Broodlords are raining down and turning the siege tanks against their own. He's forced to retreat. Wipes out the sensor tower. Cure's still building Marauders and Marines, but can he ever beat this army? SHIN has done a very good job of staying efficient. A small Bioforce. Going to take out the hatch to the south, which is real progress. Kind of forcing the issue. Oh. Wow, that happened. The Broodlings kill the Marines. Cure taking shifts on the top left corner. Forced to pull away again. Cure with 157 army supply. A fearsome Terran army. But, wow, a Hydra den on the way. SHIN willing to explore. I don't know if the Lurkers at this stage. The thing about Lurkers is they're countered by the same things Broodlords are, except more easily. He tried so hard to micro against that mine, but I think Cure microed it against the Banelings. 3 Vipers on the way. Cure is sending his orbital. Where did that other orbital go? I have no idea. There's orbitals all over the place, but there aren't 2, but there are only 4 orbitals to go around right now. Cure is maxed out. SHIN is close enough to it. But Cure eventually has to pick a fight. Or die trying. And another tank push. For the first time exploring a tank push over to the right side of the map, but 16 Broodlords. An entire feudal society of broodlords raining down. And the ghost count is rather high, but the infestors are underneath. And any damage can interrupt those snipes. Lines up some shots. The bio ball gonna clear up the ultralisk. Doesn't even get a ghost with him. The bio ball's still a real danger. But the infestors... There's a small opportunity here for Cure. He's mining again from the 6 o'clock. SHIN has actually lost... Oh, that's Spore! There's something sad about Spore Crawlers off of Creep. It's just so sad. Somehow more sad than Spine Crawlers off of Creep. But Cure, his shell remains intact. I know I said he wasn't a Turtle Terran, and still, like, he's clearly not playing that... Finally, Neural Parasite. Clicks through, like, everything that he hasn't yet. Well, a ghost, but it gets an EMP or two. Wipes out the energy of a lot of the infestors. But there's more where that came from. Who's surrounding whom? From the north side, the Vikings. Oh, EMP across the board on the infestors, but there's so many brood lords. The heart of the swarm is still so strong. The banelings interrupt the snipes. Blinding clouds wear out, but the siege tanks are a liability. Is there any more anti-air? Cure is striking back. The infestors have nothing to do here. They just have to retreat. But I think there's just not enough anti-air left. The brood lords are there's too much biomass. And 20 Hydras were on the way. 32 more Zerglings. SHIN holds. Cure, to his credit, brought it to that climactic fight. And to SHIN's credit, he held. He didn't retreat immediately. He didn't overextend. He recognized a winning fight when he saw one. And he claims game number 1. Well, quite a war of attrition, as is customary between these two. That brings us to Amygdala. Cure unable to get the jump on it. After SHIN got his hive tech advantage, he ran with it all the way across the finish line. Sure, it took another 10-15 minutes, but he got there. And you know what? I'm a little proud of him. SHIN, one of those players who continually threatens to be one of the most amazing, if not most amazing Zerg players. We're just going to assume Cyril's in another category. There are Zerg players, and then there's Cyril. Okay? So we should make sure the Balance Council knows that. But SHIN, arguably the best Zerg player that isn't Cyril or Dark. Solar and SHIN go back and forth. Rogue has his moments, and then he has other moments that are not as good, and then he has his moments again. But Rogue is a roller coaster right now. But I think that game demonstrated SHIN can play the full game, start to finish, and look like an absolute menace while doing it. I love how stubborn Cure is. He's the People's Terran. It's just a different vibe. Like, he doesn't have the perfect micro. He doesn't have the 17 medevacs boosting all over the map simultaneously. But he does have this inertia. All right. Much like your mother, once you get him going, it's hard to stop. And SHIN, to his credit, avoided him when he was strongest and picked the right fights. That was just a good, clean fight right there. It's kind of rare we see a match quite like that. So aggressively standard and by the book that it becomes unique. But here we are. Just like my awkward segue into asking you to like and subscribe. But now, they're not going to cheese. All right, we're already past the point of any proxy racks or... I guess there's a small chance of like a battlecruiser rush or a roach timing, but I don't think either player is inclined to go that direction with it. Queen pops out, literally hovering over it. Make sure that inject comes out immediately. The queens are neighborhood watch over here. Oh, the Zerglings slipped by. Quite a delay. Perfect timing. And wow, that's actually going to slow down the command center quite dramatically. At least 20 seconds or so. And he killed an SCV, so pulls another couple off the line. The minimum cost for the maximum delay. Great timing out of SHIN. Will he run in with the heli? Nope. Queen waiting. If he goes Cloak Banshee again, I swear. Like, thankfully we're on a different map, otherwise. Here come the Hellions. You're gonna drop it down on the tech lab. Don't do it, Cure. He's gonna go Cloak Banshee again. The people's turn. He treats almost every series like a ladder game. Remarkably consistent. And he runs by with the Hellions, but backs off. SHIN actually had a slightly delayed Zergling speed, which could have cost him, but the Zerglings were already in position to help delay the Hellions. So he backs off. Cloak is on the way. Overlord doing what it does best. Wander slowly into its death. You ever feel like that? I hope I can make your day a little bit better. 5 overlords at a time. Which is certainly one response to that. Making sure he won't be supply blocked for quite a while yet. Spore crawlers on the way. No Evo chambers. It's going to be layer first out of SHIN. Mixing it up just a bit. I'd love to see some mutas. And this map, it's not a huge map, but because of the rocks and the Zerg rocks even, that bleed out down the center, mutas are actually a more valid option. The biggest strength of mutas is obviously when they don't see them coming. But the longer the ground rush distance, the more likely it is the mutas can get across the map and actually get into the mineral line and other uncomfortable places. Muta's not a fighting unit. Made out of paper mache or something even weaker, but incredibly annoying to deal with if you're not effectively prepared. Prepared? No, it's already in the word. The word already is. Moving on. I'm not here to be pedantic. Well, technic. +1 melee and carapace. He goes for the upgrades, just making sure he has baneling speed. Ah, that's the twist here. We're going baneling speed earlier. Crazy. Wild. Not that crazy. Not that wild. But definitely effective. Queens. Strongly disagreeing with the Banshee's presence. Just like SHIN, taking down those rocks. Oh, the hello! He's going to offer up a sacrifice of a few Zerglings at a time in order to potentially take out the Now, this is a bloodbath. One Hellion. Oh, my. Don't move. Traumatized. That Hellion does not want to move out from that conspicuously placed rock. Fourth base on the way. The Hellion moves out from it. I should have stayed home today. How about Hellion gets taken out by the Zerglings. Queen's here to deal with the Banshees. A little late, but better late than never. Hydra's in production. And now, Cure has his army. Hydra range nearly completed. 1-1. About 30 seconds out. Cure, only 20 seconds. We'll have a slight advantage. Nice little tank nook as well. Where's combat shield, Kier? Uh-oh. The People's Terran making the mistake that every other Diamond player does every other game. Forgetting combat shield, which is actually massive. 10 HP on every single one of your Marines is worth more than all 3 armor upgrades combined. A single stim and a +1 Bane will kill those Marines, which is not good for their health. And he still hasn't noticed. This is bad. I mean, it's already bad because Hydras are knocking on the door, but the fact he hasn't started combat shield. Starts his 2-2 upgrades. He's going for the Octo Racks yet again. But with Marines, almost 20% less HP. Cure! Oh my. This is by far the most common, yet, like, the ratio, it's almost as bad as SHIN for getting adrenal glands. It's 70% of the time. It's actually worse. No, it's definitely worse. This is so much worse. Adrenal glands, because Zerglings aren't usually the main damage dealers, especially in the late game. They're helpful, but not nearly as much as Marines having 10 more HP. I cannot stress how stressed out I am right now. As, when will he realize? That's the question. Like, they even get, like, a little shield. Adrenal glands, you can almost understand. I feel like Zergling should, like, have red claws or something that shows adrenal glands. But combat shield, either your Marines have their fancy shield or they don't. Like, it's literally a shield that shows up on them. It's one of the most obvious upgrades in the entire game. Well, it's going to be very obvious. I feel like Cure is going to get completely smashed here and not know why. I'm sure SHIN is like, well, I gotta go before he realizes what's going on. Well, Marines still have a lot of DPS here. Well, I guess you don't need much HP if you don't get hit. Absolute genius strategy out of Cure. I hadn't considered that one. Yep. Still no, he still has not noticed. And when this many Marines survive an engagement with dozens of Banelings, I guess it's not super obvious either. But, oh, that siege tank hitting so hard. Double-digit Banelings per shot. The Marines out in front, the Hydras helping out. Another wave of Zerglings to the... What? Is that a... Wow! He built the wall to keep the Zerg out. And the depots will hold, though the SCVs do not bother dealing with this. The tank push is devastating. The Banshees are back. Oh, no! Is Kira gonna go this whole game without combat shield and win it, potentially? Baneling's rolling in. Hydraling Bane. SCV's on the run. And the depot, there's a secondary depot wall. Kira spent more time on his architectural engineering here than he did on... Hey, well, out on the field, oh my, he's on the creep. The Banelings are rolling in. It's a disaster, but still not an all-encompassing one, as the Marines still manage to survive. SHIN is up 30 supply, but mostly because he killed so many SCVs. Okay, well, at this... And he starts combat shield. 11 minutes in. SHIN does not start Adrenal Glade. It looks like now we're just for... Both of them will forget the core upgrades for their army. Hydra Lunge is on the way. The siege tank push continues. The Hydra's gone down on the field. Half a dozen of them, and Cure is still tearing through the pretty much everything that gets in his way. And that's why the Zerglings went all the way around. But another base going to be overrun. The Zerglings ransacking the SCV. He saves one. The only one that gets the Platinum Pass in the command center. Adrenal Gland starts. He noticed on the first fight. Some extra credit there for SHIN. Combat shield about to complete, but Cure, his economy has already been gutted. The Hydras slithering by. Kind of weird to see 5 Hydras. A gang of Hydras. He lunges in place. It is one of the more clunky to use abilities. But Cure with a 2-tiered tank push here. Tanks scattered throughout the field. Still 60 Marines out there. 2-2 upgrades. Adrenaline's on the way, but he has full energy Vipers. Potential parasitic bomb. Blinding Cloud on the backline. Tank Hydras from the south as well. And the Hydraling Bane will just run the table. Cure loses the vast majority of his medevacs. The Marines need to go to rehab after all these stims, but they're only going to find their way into the units lost tab. GG. SHIN will take it 2-0. Though I'm heartily amused he didn't until after Cure noticed combat shield. But I digress. And we move into our bonus series, which is SHIN versus Cure again. Surprise doubleheader as they faced again in the same tournament. Pigsty Festival number... Is it Pigfest? No, Pigsty Festival. Anyway, it's Pigs Tournament. Go check them out. Link in the description, right, Jim? Round 2. Has Cure learned his lesson? Or will SHIN overrun him yet again? I believe it happened on the same day, so we'll get a pretty direct comparison here. We're going into Ultra Love for match 2. SHIN versus Cure. God, so aggressively. People's Terran does effectively the same build twice in a row, except misses the most important upgrade for your Marines, and still almost 60. Now, would he have won the game? If he has 10, 15 more Marines at the end of any of those pushes, his opponent's in deep SHIN. Like, God, it's such a... I don't know why it's so easy to forget it. I get... It's one of those things, maybe you assume you queued up, you assume it's on the way, and even if you notice you don't have it, you assume you're getting it. But maybe you don't have quite enough gas for the upgrade. And it's remarkable how common it is. I would say almost 10% of Terran games, especially against Zerg, where it's less obvious right off the bat. 5 to 10% of pro Terran games, combat shield is significantly delayed. Now, that pales in comparison to over 50% of SHIN games, where Adrenal Glands is significantly delayed and sometimes not built at all. But, again, it's such a visible upgrade that you would think it would be arguably the first one you notice, but no. Sometimes the most obvious things are the ones you miss, like the fact you haven't liked and subscribed. I'm thinking. Maybe I should think out loud, because that's the whole thing we're doing here. When people have it on the background, on their TV in the other room, pretending to do chores, or maybe actually think about playing the game. Right, they want to have their background noise. And hearing drones pop and Reapers try to murder them. Or themselves. Classic. No, Cure. That drone trying to slip by, the Cure not notice? Oh, old man Cure. Well, wait, what? What? Okay, wait, now I'm even more confused. What is the... So SHIN, I thought he was slipping a drone out to get another hatch, but then he already has another hatch. So why did the drone go? Did he just rally it? Poor... Meanwhile, the queen... Shh. Be quiet, I'm trying to sneak up on them. Brenda, we both know you're not very quiet. Shut up, Susan! How can I even hear you? You see how loud you are? I can hear you from the main. Well, we're identical twins. I don't think so. I don't. I blacked out for. So Shin with some 78 IQ mind games, Cure. Keeping tabs on things with the Reaper. This is how we used to play with the Reaper. Until Clem kind of rekindled the Reaper micro passion that Byung got nerfed multiple times. Until the last couple years when Clem's like, actually you can be the most irritating player in the world with Reapers. But there were a few years where you just build a Reaper, you go across, oh yep, they expanded. And then you sit on the edge of the creep and that's that. Of course, that was until the Clem Nation attacked. And oh my god, he's just gonna do the same build again. Which, fine. And honestly, it looked terrifying. The sheer amount of Marines and tanks he's able to put on the field is just... It's incredible. There's a reason, again, that Cure has had such constant and consistent success. He's won GSL. He's in the top 10 players in the world. It's pretty rare. He's considered to be near the very top. But he can beat everyone but the big three, pretty much. So, that consistency has served him well for nearly 15 years straight. Reminds me somewhat of the most ironic player in StarCraft 2. Innovation. Innovation, well known for doing exactly the same build. Like, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times in a row in a series. Not innovating whatsoever. Even if he gets hard countered, there were times where he'd just do the same build, get hard countered again, lose 0-3. Like, straight up embarrassing, but with a bit of respect for his commitment. And here we are again. You know the build. Double NG Bay, double Rax, Shin. Now, it's not like Shin is exactly developing an entirely new strain of Zerg over here. He's got the double Evo chamber and the lair on the way. He's going to be going for the Massling Bane. Oh, we'll see what kind of split. Whether it's Hydras, Mutas, or straight up to Hive. Upgrades almost identical timings. I saw a question the other... so Terran and Zerg upgrades are the same amount of time. Protoss upgrades actually take a little bit longer, for the most part. Though Chrono Boost exists, so they can be short. To answer the question of some illustrious commenter the other day. Wondering. But thankfully, much like most tournament finals, there are no Protoss here today. Well, non-weekly tournament finals. You'd be hard-pressed not to find one in those. That creep spread looking beautiful. Metastasizing across. Hydralisks it is. It sounded wrong to say. I don't know why. Maybe I just didn't enunciate well. Impossible. Wow. Make it a thumbnail level main. Look at this Factorio build. Like, the production in the main. Banelings, no speed. A few Marines left behind. They'll expect some of us in the wreckage, brothers. Was there no room in the medevacs? No. Wings and Bane. 76 drones for Shin. 69 CVs for Cure. Which gives him a nice baseline to work off of and easily produce out of the Octo Rex. The creep having a tough time of manifesting itself on the bridge. There is creep, it's just one of those weird graphical glitches. The bridge is creep-phobic, like many Terrans. 2 toy depots for scouting. That land's gonna roast the links, and here comes Cure. 8 minutes in. Has a huge tank push coming across the map. Hellbats as the armory completed. 2-2 begins immediately. And is there enough to deal with this? This time he does have combat shield. He has all the fixins. He has a great position on the high ground. SHIN just gonna give up that base, not even bothering to try to save it. Knows there won't be enough here, but Cure gets a little supply, but the Banshees back at home will deal with a potential counterattack. But Cure's inexorable push. The Queens trying to hold it together. A lot of energy and a lot of them. The Queen's moot has gathered. Will knock back some of the Hellbats. He's built a wall at the third yet again. I do love that setup. Cure slow and steady. Until Hive Tech. Well, Cure's nearly maxed out. Here we go. The Queen's on the north side as well. The Lings and Banes rolling down. And the Banelings trying to find the main clump of the Marines. Move commands past. Queen's targeting. The Hydra's gonna help out against the Medivacs. And... it was a lot of damage. It looked good for SHIN. But he lost 100 and something Zerglings. And the Banshee's actually cutting off a few of the Queens. Not quite at range. Assassinates the Queen before the inject, and yet another one. And the next wave. Wow, that is a lot of Marines. Somehow, I'm not sure who has the Hydras, because it feels like you cut down one Marine and 3 pop up in its place. The Hive is only halfway done. 2-2 is about to complete. There will be a slight upgrade advantage here for SHIN. But does he have the units to actually use it? Siege tank on the low ground as Cure just jams himself in place. And here we go. Hydras, Lings, and Banes. Medevac's nearly out of energy. Just one siege tank. Medevac's taken out of the sky immediately. 2-2 about to complete. The Banelings are exhausted. A few more on the way. Cure continues to trundle across the map. Bottom right corner for SHIN. Has more places to expand to. The Hydras looking to pick off what they can. Only a single tank. The Hydra is quite a threat to smaller groups of Marines and Marauders. Zerglings thrown back by the hard wall at the third base. A meandering one, but actually probably more effective than just a straight-up wall. Cure is taking a fourth. The Planetary's on the way. Is he long-distance mining from the outside of the geyser? Well, that's how you know it's a wall. Typical government efficiency. $38 more Zerglings. SHIN actually down on supply. A single Viper. No adrenal glands. Cure just chilling in the middle of the map with tanks. Because that's how we do. Still has this kind of uncomfortable amount of supply that is so tough to deal with. The Planetary Fortress outflanks the Zerglings, which a surprising feat. They don't move very fast. Siege tank almost in range of the hatchery. The Marines and Marauders working to it. And the hatch, one more okay, takes it down. Lurker Den is on the way as SHIN scrambles for any Hive Tech. Hydras, Lings, and Banes take out the Marines on the right flank, but Cure still maintains a supply lead. The tug of war slipping away from SHIN as the Hive Tech has not turned the tide. He does not have adrenal glands in production. Of course not. In fact, we got it way too many games this series, statistically. There's so many Marines. 69 Marines. Nice. Cutting out the bit. The siege tank push extends over half the map. The Marines will hold the bridge, even as the Banelings goes in. The Zergling. Oh my god! It's a massacre! As Cure loses the main brunt of his Marines. He's going to lose a dozen or more SCVs. He's going to lose his position on the map. But I'm not yet confident he's going to lose the game. hunting down a queen in the natural. Well, the former natural. The drone's caught in the corner as well. SHIN's supply block loses a Viper to the dregs of the push. Blinding Cloud on one of the tanks. Gonna look for more on the back line. The Marines and Marauders are cutting back. Finished 3-3 upgrades. And SHIN... God, it's a bloodbath. Lurker range is on the way. 5 lurkers to try to salvage the game. SHIN still has 3-ish bases. And would you believe it? Cure with another Marine tank push. The next wave is sent to the front. The lurkers will burrow, but there's enough tanks to be a real threat to them. There's still 1 Viper, but the tanks are now in their own little nooks on the high ground. The lurkers are moving in to defend their own main. Lurker range is not done, so they can't even deal with this. Has to yank a couple in, but doesn't have enough. Oh, the queens are bleeding out. Not for long. They're just dead now. The Marines, uncontested in the main, does not have +3 melee nor adrenal glands, because of course not. The Hydra's trying to fight, consuming mid-fight, but here come the Marines, gun down the Viper. Down goes the medevac, because of course it does. But after it, Cure claims the game. The war of attrition won. 200 Marines dead. But not nearly enough to stop Cure from marching across the map. That is the People's Terran. Yet again in action. Oh my. What a violent game. SHIN unable to get to that hive tech nearly in time. And even when he did get it there, the momentum had shifted. We find ourselves back on Amygdala for match point yet again. It's somehow both chill and exhausting watching these two, because they're such clear macro. Like we won't, but we could probably skip to like the 7-minute mark. I don't know. Maybe you'll send out 2 SCVs this time, but and we could probably skip to the 7-minute mark without missing any big tactical moves. But after that point, it's just a brawl. They just keep throwing Zerg and Terran into the meat grinder. I think that was partially the difference between having combat shields and not. That's what, in the first series, Kira wanted to do. On this exact map. So, yes, the details might be marginally different, but Marines only cost... So, as much, as effective as it looks for Banelings to kill Marines en masse, Banelings cost Vespene gas. Hydras cost gas. Marines do not. So, at the end of the day, if you take any sort of ethical considerations out of it, like Terrans almost always do, it's hard not to have a good trade in those sort of scenarios. Usually, the reason you don't want to just throw all the Marines away is that then the rest of the Zerg come running across, get on top of your production, cut off your reinforcements, and that spirals out of control. But if you just keep meeting in the center of the map and trading minerals for minerals and gas, eventually, they'll get ground down. We'll see. At least they switched colors for the second series as well. Not that we can't tell the difference between Terrans and Zergs. It's just nice to have a slight switch so I don't get intense deja vu. Though, I feel like the builds are going to do that already. Reaper. Deja vu. Pops the drone. Looking for the Lings. Queen pops out. And there we are again. 2 command centers on the way. And SHIN? Will he take the third base? So now here comes the split. Does he take the third base? Ah, he's gonna try to get the hatch. Oh, but the SCV? He's gonna... Oh, no. Well. An execution. And quite a demonstration of why. Well, one, why the SCV was there. And two, why, okay, well, now he's committed. He's doubling down on this. And eventually he should be able to get the base, but the queen is now physically going to... Oh, my... Oh. Hey... Oh, it's really bad. Like, both emotionally and physically. It cost him 2 drones. His hatchery was delayed by over 30 seconds. The queens were not doing anything but angrily staring down the Reaper. It's bad. The bullying begins early in this game. Did SHIN? Ah, he doesn't have an overlord on the pervert pillar. It actually went off into the, apparently, asteroid field or whatever we got going on over here. Is there a sign on that? I can't. Earth. 21... Many, is it billion kilometers? That seemed low, actually. I don't know. Well... Cloak Banshee on the way, but I can't help but feel like this is like hobbling out of bed. Somehow your leg cramps. The moment you try to get out of bed, your leg, just that intense cramping. And now your whole day is ruined. You lost 2 drones, your third base was severely delayed, and you know what's coming. It's gonna be a Marine tank push. It's going to be Hellion Banshees. He's going to go to the Octo-Rex with double engineering bay upgrades. And SHIN is hobbled to start. Will he change it up? Or will we just see what Cure intended originally? A double Banshee. I like how Cure knows his limits as well. Like, Clem will be individually microing Banshees on either side of the map. Cure's like, nah, I just wait for 2. Alright? Just fly on in. Expecting there to be sports. He's right. Just go straight to the main, though. We'll spot the double... Wow. Just scouting Banshees. Eh, finds a few drones. Queens will, poke and prod, but... Oh, the Banshee actually runs out of energy at a very inconvenient time. Not inconvenient enough. And there's barracks 4 and 5. Tyr's already landed his third. Hydra Den is on the way. Going straight for the Hydras. Gear will have a minute upgrade advantage. I don't mean a small amount. I mean a literal measure of time. A minute. I don't know, like, we've seen the same game, it feels like, 4 times. And each one has gotten progressively, each one has gotten progressively worse for SHIN. As Cure just refines it. Combat Shield on the way on time. 3 more Rex. For the 4th time, the Octo-Rex is on the field. And for the 4th time, SHIN will be going Hydra Ling Bane to meet it. Actually, I think game 1 was... just Ling Bane into Ultra. And that was actually quite effective, so... Unfortunately, not the case here. Marines, stutter stepping in. The Banshees helping deal with the counterattack. And is SHIN just going to lose the 4th base? Baneling speed is seconds away. The Zergling counterattack just drove right by the 3rd base and is coming in for a flank. 1-1 is done. The Banelings will be targeted. The Hellbat's out in front. He just picks up the Marines. The Queens! Wow. Cure is so comfortable in his macro. Instead of trying to target down 2 banelings, he just picks up all his Marines. But there's another wave. And it's only the Queens who stand against them. One less now. The hatchery will just kind of die. Transfuse is used. Baneling speed coming in. Wow, eats massive baneling hits and asks for seconds. Unfortunately for SHIN, there are no more trickling through. Maybe 1 or 2, but Cure grinding through the Queens. The hatchery could be next. More Marines parading across the map. A dozen Marines at a time off the Octo Rex. There's another base up to the north. It's not the end if he loses this hatch, but the momentum is clearly in Cure's favor. The Marine count has reached a critical mass. Hydra speed is done. The medevacs are nearly out of energy, but that hatchery is very much out of HP. More Marines heading across. Banelings gunned down before they can even finish morphing. And the sheer amount of dudes with drugs and guns getting upset over illegal aliens is making me feel right at home. Well, the push will continue. Cure, more and more success with each game. Banelings roll down. Cure makes barely any attempt to micro because he knows how many more Marines he has headed across the map. Or maybe he did make an attempt to micro and that was the best he had. Either way, it doesn't matter. The medevacs are out of energy. But the upgrades are closing in. More Marines marching across the map in SHIN. There's no light at the end of this tunnel. Maybe if there was dark, we could find a way out, but dark isn't here. The Marines slip in, bringing the Hydras into tank range. SHIN trying to deal with them, but there's more Marines behind as well. 2-2 just finished, just in time for those Marines to get melted by the Banelings. Oh, wait. There's more. There's always more Marines. There's still 40 on the field. He's adding in some Marauders. I think he added some tech labs on the Octo Rex, the extra one. Siege tanks on the low ground. There's no hive on the way. There's no infestation pit. It's just Hydralings and Bane. And Cure, for every 5 Marines he loses, 10 more pop up to replace him. Banelings roll in. But even more of them taken out by the siege tanks as they come around the corner, down the ramp, and into the unit's lost tab. Cure continues his grind forward, and he will sweep the second series 2-0. A tough one for SHIN. Cure with effectively the same build 4 times in a row, refining it every single time. And SHIN unable to adapt. You get off to the wrong foot and you might not get going very far at all. But still, a good classical Terran versus Zerg showdown. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it made your day a little bit better. And thank you again to Pig for putting on yet another incredible tournament. Make sure to check him out. And if you got the means and motivation, it would be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun, stay chill.